on a crisp December morning that hinted at the holiday spirit. Nancy, known affectionately as Nan to her friends and family, was preparing for her company's Christmas party. The scent of fresh hair dye wafted through the air, mingling with the steam from her husband Eric's shower, creating a warm yet chaotic ambience typical of their bustling household. Just as Nancy was savoring a rare moment of peace, her phone buzzed with a new message. It was from her mother-in-law, Mrs. Linda, announcing an imminent visit. Unsurprising, given her tendency to drop by unannounced. Glancing at the clock, Nancy realized it was already 11:05 a.m. and Mrs. Linda would arrive in just half an hour. As Nancy rushed to rinse out the dye from her hair, the front door swung open, and Mrs. Linda strode in, her commanding presence filling the room as she scanned her surroundings. "Where's Kevin?" she demanded, her voice sharp with irritation. Keeping her composure, Nancy replied, "He's with Catherine, my best friend. They're out Christmas shopping, and she'll be watching him overnight so Eric and I can enjoy the party without worries." Mrs. Linda frowned, her disapproval palpable. "It seems every time I want to see him, Kevin is with Catherine," she retorted, her tone rising with frustration. Nancy took a deep breath, striving for calm. "Mom, Catherine and I love taking Kevin on little adventures. It gives Eric some quiet time and works out well for us." But Mrs. Linda was far from convinced. She launched into a long-winded lecture about the importance of keeping family close, especially during the holiday season. Her words dripped with criticism, painting a narrow picture of what family life should look like. Just then, Tyler, Nancy's 21-year-old son, entered the room, radiating a sense of maturity that belied his age. Often at odds with Mrs. Linda's conservative views, he found them outdated and stifling. This encounter showcased the complex dynamics within their family, where different perspectives on holiday traditions often clashed, weaving a tapestry of tension and affection that many families experience. Standing firm, Tyler declared, "I won't be at your house on Christmas Day." His voice was steady, but the resolution behind it was clear. Nancy could feel the tension rise as Mrs. Linda's face flushed a deep red, her emotions boiling just beneath the surface. The conversation quickly escalated. Despite the growing storm, Tyler stood his ground, repeating, "No, I am not going." Nancy intervened, hoping to defuse the situation and remind Mrs. Linda of the family boundaries they had established. But Mrs. Linda seemed to spiral, her composure slipping away. "Why can't you just be there?" she pleaded, her voice cracking, each word heavy with emotion. The question unearthed painful memories from 2 years ago when Deborah and Matthew, her sister-in-law and her husband, had disciplined Kevin, then only 7, without consulting them, leaving deep scars on their family. Trying to explain their reasons for setting boundaries, Nancy felt as though she was speaking to a brick wall. Mrs. Linda had never respected limits, let alone understood them. Standing in her kitchen, a towel stained with dye still wrapped around her head, Nancy faced the full force of her mother-in-law's wrath, which raged like an unpredictable storm. "It's always Catherine this, Catherine that. What about family?" Mrs. Linda exclaimed, her voice rising with each syllable. "I'm not excluding you. Catherine is family too. She's always been there for us and for Kevin. It's not about choosing her over you," Nancy insisted, striving to maintain her composure. But Mrs. Linda was relentless. "You're pushing us away. Your own family. It's Christmas, Nancy, a time for family to be together," she argued, her eyes flashing with a mix of anger and hurt. "It was a delicate balance that I had been maintaining for years. My husband, Eric, and I held different views on relaxation. He was a homebody, content to immerse himself in his hobbies and his circle of friends, while I thrived on going out and participating in activities with Catherine and Kevin. This unconventional arrangement worked seamlessly for us, as Eric always knew he was welcome to join whenever he chose. This narrative illustrates a family navigating the complexities of individual needs versus familial expectations, particularly during the emotionally charged holiday season. The struggle to maintain personal boundaries while striving for family unity loomed large. Tyler's declaration cut through the tension. "I won't be at your house on Christmas Day," he stated, his voice steady and firm. The confrontation made Mrs. Linda's face flush a deep red, a clear sign of the brewing storm. As the argument escalated, Tyler remained resolute, repeating firmly, "No, I am not going." In an effort to mediate, I reminded Mrs. Linda of the family boundaries we had established, but it felt as if she was blind to our reasoning. Her plea, heavy with emotion, struck a chord. "Why can't you just be there?" she asked, echoing the pain of past conflicts, particularly an incident 2 years prior when Deborah and Matthew, my sister-in-law and her husband, had harshly disciplined Kevin, then just 7 years old, without our consent. That breach of trust had left deep scars, affecting not just Kevin but our entire family. I tried to explain to Mrs. Linda that these boundaries were crucial for Kevin's well-being. Despite his ADD, Kevin is a bright, energetic child who flourishes in an environment filled with understanding and empathy, not judgment or harsh punishment. We were committed to creating a loving atmosphere where he felt supported. Yet, as I spoke, the air thickened with tension, the festive decorations around us starkly contrasting with the charged mood in our kitchen. Mrs. Linda's inability to acknowledge the damage caused by her daughter and son-in-law's actions was palpable, possibly clouded by her unwavering family loyalty or ingrained societal norms. I attempted to remain composed while her small frame seemed to tower with indignation, demanding an explanation or compromise that would conform to her ideal of a family Christmas. But some wounds run too deep to be set aside, even for the holidays. Amid this turmoil, Tyler stood firm, his youthful face set with the resolve of someone who trusts his judgment. He calmly faced his grandmother, unaffected by her growing anger. "Grandma, I've told you. I'm uncomfortable with your views. I won't pretend just for the sake of the holiday," Tyler asserted, his voice resolute. The disbelief twisted Mrs. Linda's features. "You're being disrespectful, Tyler. It's Christmas, a time for family to come together despite our differences," she countered, her voice strained. Yet, Tyler stood his ground, embodying the sensitivity toward bigotry and discrimination that he had always shown. This narrative highlights the challenges of navigating complex family dynamics during a time typically meant for unity and celebration. It underscores the idea that understanding and acceptance must sometimes bridge the gap between personal beliefs and familial obligations. Tyler's rejection of narrow-minded attitudes marked a boundary he could not ignore. "Family doesn't mean tolerating hate," he declared, visibly shaking Mrs. Linda with his forthrightness. "We're your family. Tyler, how can you turn your back on us?" she implored. As I watched the exchange, I felt torn between my admiration for Tyler's bravery and my anxiety over the escalating conflict. This confrontation wasn't sudden. It was the culmination of years of buried disagreements and clashing views that we had navigated as a family. Our initial plan had been straightforward: visit Mrs. Linda on Christmas Eve for a few hours to preserve some semblance of family unity while upholding our principles. However, Tyler's firm decision to skip any Christmas Day gatherings at her house had drawn a definitive line in the sand. Frustrated, Mrs. Linda turned to me, pleading, "Nancy, talk some sense into your son. He's tearing this family apart." But how could I? Tyler's convictions mirrored the values Eric and I had instilled in him, values of respect, equality, and tolerance. As I attempted to mediate, reminding Mrs. Linda of our commitment to visit on Christmas Eve, it was clear that she was beyond consolation. Her ideal vision of a perfect family Christmas was unraveling, taking her composure with it. "You're all ungrateful," she lamented, her voice cracking. After everything I've done for this family, she added. The conversation spiraled, going in circles with no end in sight. Tyler's stance, though difficult for Mrs. Linda to accept, was essential for affirming his identity and beliefs. He was standing up against the prejudices that had long overshadowed our family gatherings. At that moment, the generational divide within our family was starkly evident, a chasm deepened by evolving social consciousness and rigid traditions. The dispute in our kitchen had transformed into more than just a disagreement. It revealed deeper wounds and long-standing conflicts. Mrs. Linda's insistence on a unified family Christmas, despite the evident issues, was steeped in denial, refusing to acknowledge the real reasons behind our reservations. Her vision for the holidays, wrapped in the guise of family unity, ignored the underlying tensions that needed addressing for true harmony. As I faced Mrs. Linda, I searched for words to bridge the gap between us. "Mom, you know why we can't just be there," I began softly, recalling the incident that had reshaped our family dynamics 2 years ago. At a family gathering, Deborah and Matthew had taken it upon themselves to discipline Kevin for his high-spirited behavior, a direct result of his ADHD. They had either misunderstood or chosen not to understand that Kevin's vibrancy wasn't misbehavior but an integral part of who he was. Worse, they had physically reprimanded him, crossing a profound line for Eric and me. The memory was painful. Kevin, just 7 years old at the time, had come running to us in tears, bewildered and hurt by the actions of family members he had trusted. It was a deep betrayal that fractured our family, and we were still working to heal those wounds. For a fleeting moment, I saw Mrs. Linda's expression soften, as if she might understand, but that glimmer of empathy quickly faded, replaced by her usual stubbornness. "They were just trying to help. He needs to learn discipline," she insisted, her tone unwavering. A surge of protectiveness filled me. "We do discipline Kevin, but in a way that helps him understand and grow. We talk to him and help him regulate his emotions. We don't believe in physical punishment," I replied, my voice firm yet calm. Mrs. Linda shook her head, clearly unable to accept our parenting style. "In my time, a little discipline never hurt anyone. You're all too soft on him," she countered, dismissing our approach outright. It felt like a futile conversation. Mrs. Linda was entrenched in her beliefs and could not see the damage caused by Deborah and Matthew's actions. To her, family meant sticking together regardless of the circumstances. For us, it meant respect, understanding, and empathy, values that seemed increasingly foreign to her. The tension in the room was thick. Mrs. Linda's refusal to acknowledge our pain or comprehend our perspective felt like an insurmountable barrier. As much as I longed for a peaceful family gathering, I realized some rifts were simply too deep to bridge. The atmosphere crackled with years of unspoken grievances and misunderstandings. Mrs. Linda's insistence on maintaining appearances and upholding a facade of family unity was crumbling beneath the weight of reality. Standing there, surrounded by unresolved issues, it became clear that achieving true familial unity would require more than mere attendance. It would necessitate a fundamental shift in understanding and acceptance, a shift that seemed increasingly unlikely. As the conversation stalled, Mrs. Linda persisted in pressing for our attendance at the family Christmas gathering, and I felt the tension escalate. Tyler stood quietly beside me, his earlier words echoing in the silence. Just then, Eric emerged from the shower, adding another layer of intensity to the already charged atmosphere. "I don't understand why you can't just show up. Is it so hard to be a family for one day?" Mrs. Linda implored, desperation lacing her voice. Her plea struck a nerve, but not in the way she intended. "It's not just about showing up, Mom. It's about respect and acknowledging the pain that's been caused," I responded, my voice steady yet weighed down with emotion. In that moment, something in Mrs. Linda snapped, her face twisted with frustration and anger. and she raised her hand as if to strike. Instinctively, I recoiled, rising from my chair, a mix of shock and defiance in my eyes. "Enough!" I shouted. "I won't let you guilt-trip us, not me, not Tyler. My sons, we have our boundaries, and it's time you started respecting them." The room fell silent. Mrs. Linda's hand still raised, a stark emblem of the rift that had just unfolded. Eric stepped forward, his demeanor calm and composed, a sharp contrast to the emotional turmoil swirling around us. "Mom, you need to leave," he stated, his voice steady but devoid of anger. "This isn't how we solve things in this family." What followed was a tense standoff. Mrs. Linda, her pride wounded and authority challenged, shifted her gaze between us as if truly seeing us for the first time. For a fleeting moment, I thought I detected regret in her eyes, but it quickly transformed into her familiar stubbornness. Without uttering a word, she turned and walked out, the door closing behind her with a finality that felt heavy with meaning. We stood united, bonded not just by blood but by a shared commitment to what was right. The encounter with Mrs. Linda marked a turning point for us, a moment where we chose respect and empathy over compliance and tradition. Once she was gone, the house was eerily quiet, as if the walls were absorbing the shock of the confrontation. Eric, Tyler, and I took a seat, a collective sigh escaping our lips. It was a moment for reflection, a pause in the emotional storm that had just swept through our home. "We did the right thing." Eric finally broke the silence. His tone was calm and reassuring, reinforcing the values and boundaries we had chosen to uphold. His eyes revealed the internal conflict he had faced. Standing up to his mother had been difficult, but the principles we held as a family were steadfast. Tyler, exhibiting a maturity beyond his years, nodded in agreement. "I'm proud of us," he said, his voice filled with a weight that resonated deeply among us. I looked at them, my heart swelling with pride at how we had faced adversity together. Yet I felt a profound sorrow for the family bonds that were now strained, perhaps to their breaking point. "We've always known our family is different," I said softly, letting the thought linger in the air. "But being different doesn't mean being wrong. We've created something special here, something built on understanding, respect, and love." We then shifted our conversation to the upcoming Christmas party, a welcome distraction from the earlier tensions. Catherine, a symbol of the family we had chosen, not just the one we were born into, would be joining us. "We'll have a great time tonight," I said, a smile beginning to form on my lips. "And tomorrow, we'll celebrate with your brother, a small but meaningful gathering." As we chatted, the lingering tension began to dissolve, replaced by excitement for the festivities ahead. It reminded us that despite the challenges we faced, we had each other, a foundation strong enough to weather any storm. In that moment, I realized that boundaries weren't just about keeping others at bay. They were about protecting and nurturing what truly mattered. As day turned to evening and we prepared for the party, a sense of resolve enveloped me. Our family, with all its complexities and imperfections, was a tapestry woven with threads of resilience, love, and a profound understanding of what it meant to stand by one another. No matter that the evening of the Christmas party arrived, offering a vibrant contrast to the day's earlier turmoil, as Eric, Tyler, and I entered the festive space, adorned with twinkling lights and cheerful decorations, a wave of relief washed over me. The room buzzed with laughter and music, creating a joyful bubble of escapism. Catherine greeted us with her characteristic warmth, her presence reinforcing the bonds of the family we had intentionally created, a family defined not just by blood, but by shared values and unwavering support. Catherine had become more than just my best friend. She was a confidant, an aunt, and a sister in every sense that mattered. Her understanding smile at the party reassured me that she was aware of the day's tensions, yet her eyes radiated unwavering support and solidarity. The celebration offered a delightful reprieve, a chance to immerse ourselves in the company of friends and colleagues. As we mingled, laughed, and danced, the burdens from Mrs. Linda's visit began to fade, replaced by feelings of freedom and belonging. Tyler, usually reserved, found his joy that evening, his earlier confrontation with his grandmother fading into the background of the night's merriment. Eric, ever the quiet observer, kept a watchful eye on us, his affection for our tight-knit family evident in his gentle smile. As the night progressed, my thoughts turned to the next day's planned gathering with my brother. It would be smaller but no less significant. This gathering was a celebration of our core values: respect, understanding, and unconditional love. Eventually, the party wound down, and we headed home through the quiet streets, the festive lights guiding our way. Inside the car, the silence felt comfortable and reflective. We had weathered a significant storm, emerging with a renewed sense of purpose and unity. Lying in bed that night, I replayed the day's events in my mind. I realized that the strength of our family lay in our ability to embrace our differences, stand firm in our beliefs, and choose love over conformity. This Christmas would be different from past ones, but it would be distinctly ours, a celebration of the bonds we had nurtured, the challenges we had faced, and the love that united us. What mattered most was knowing we were there for each other, unconditionally and without hesitation. Our family, with all its quirks and challenges, stood as a testament to the enduring power of love, understanding, and the courage to advocate for what is right. This realization enveloped me in a deep sense of peace, wrapping around me like a warm blanket as I drifted off to sleep, reassured by the strength and love of the family we had built and chosen.